Morning. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, 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 test. Test, test. A little bit louder now. 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 And shout. And shout. Oh, this is a silly show. Okay, so I hope we have the volume levels right. Let's talk about... Okay, I did notes for Fahrenheit 451, but it was not the best movie. And for some reason, it is so hard for me to get on camera and use my notes. I don't know why. My handwriting is atrocious. So we open with a quote, "Better to be in chains than free." And then the next quote is from the Bill of Rights, "Better to be happy than free." Fuck both. Fuck both. So now we have Mike playing with matches in a very dystopian future where we find out almost immediately pen and paper are illegal. The enemies in this movie are known as the eels. Only 3 books are allowed. Well, I just need a larger reading selection. A little more thought. That's what this whole movie's about. Thought. One of the themes in this movie is there's a lot of chanting, talking about salamanders and shit. I don't know why everything's so reptilian. Or amphibian, actually. Amphibian, because some eels can live on land. I guess amphibians are an offshoot of reptiles, but I'm getting off topic. So we go to a school, and they give a book burning demonstration, and they getting the kids all into it. Burn books! Then we get to see an attack on the eels, who are people who upload books and just general information to the Nine, or their version of the internet. You see all these signs saying happiness is truth. It's very culty. Very culty. So now we see Montague, which is, I was going to call him Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan's character. And then you have his boss. And I don't know the actor's name, but he was pretty good in it. But you see they have a very father-son-like relationship. They're always looking for books to burn. So Montague's boss has one of those informed quid pro quo relationships with an eel, and he uses her to find where the graffiti cells are, because that's what they call books, graffiti. So she leads them to some halfway house where somebody trying to upload an oral history of journalism. At this juncture, we find out there was a civil war that killed 8 million people, and that led to this worship of ignorance. And misinformation is used to control the people. Sound familiar, doesn't it? Oh, God, more singing and chanting? No. I don't want to see it on Empire or Star. I certainly don't want to see it here. Now we see that the boss has snuck some pen and paper from somewhere, and he's writing down poignant thoughts he clearly read in some philosophy books. The eel heifer the boss is friends with does a lot of black market deals. She's getting people cooking oil and meat and milk and apparently things that are scarce. I do not want to live in a world where cooking oil is scarce and there are only 3 books. And we see Montague has some forbidden materials, old tape recorders, and I guess shit that, he found when he was burning books. So the team goes to another one of Clarice's leads. That's the eel heifer, Clarice. And they get to this big old house, and it's just a library. I mean, filled top to the bottom. Book. So the fire chief kind of dares Montague to read so that he can see the craziness, the opposing opinions in the books that caused all the problem. But then he's like, no, don't read it. And then they burn everything. But Montague goes on and steals the book quickly. It's funny, though, that he stole something so poignant and not like Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat. That would have been hilarious. Sam, I am. I do want some green eggs and ham. I mean, they're books. You don't know what you're reading. Yeah, y'all don't. That's also weird. Like, you got to be able to read stop signs and shit. And you got to be able to talk. So I don't know. That's a plot hole. But the lady who owns the house and has all the books jumps into the fire with books strapped to her like bombs and says the word ominous. And you know everything's fucking recording. I forgot to say that. The fire teams, they record everything and it live streams onto the 9. I wouldn't be tuned into that shit. It's real Empire Extreme. But this heifer burns herself and says ominous, and it gets all the people in an uproar because, you know, she done murdered herself. When you see someone set themselves on fire, it affects you. And it affected Montague. So because Montague was there, he knows that the lady said ominous and he wanted to know what the word meant. But then when he sees the replay on the 9, the word was omitted. So Montague finds Clarice and asks her, what was this old heifer talking about? What's ominous? And then he shows her the book that he got. And he's like, can you help me suss this out? Because, you know, I ain't never really read since there are no books. So I might need a little help with my reading comprehension. So they go read at her house because... Shit. So they go read at her house because, you know, he live on the technological side of town and he got one of them Google assistants that be eavesdropping on his ass. Hey, Google, are you eavesdropping on me? Okay, I'm going to need you to turn up volume, Google, turn up volume. Volume up. Okay, Google, volume up. Google, turn up your volume. Anyway, the shit works a lot better than this Google Home that you can't even hear, that I can hardly hear. But back to the point, I don't know why I bought this. I never use it. Do you got one of these things? You ever use it? I never use it. Turn the volume up. It's just sitting there. So now we get to dig deeper into this society, and we find out that after the Great War, people learned how to do thought prediction, and then thought prediction led to the ministry, or the ministry led to thought prediction. But it's basically people who made this world possible. It's not like some evil company. It was us. We voted the bullshit in. Again, very familiar. Now we get a story leap. That's what I call it. They definitely kept this movie going, and it felt a little rushed. But I would also say if it had been longer, then it would have been drawn out. I'd rather have rushed than drawn out. But Montague gives this thoughtful and poignant monologue about burning books and shit. And it's like, now you done heard this heifer story for 5 minutes. Are you just trying to get some puss? Is that what this is? And people can't even play music because they sneaking around with a harmonica. A harmonica. There's nothing more harmless than a harmonica. So Montague is on these drops, and apparently they control your memories and shit. He goes off the drops and then comes to realize he's been suppressing the flashbacks that he's been having this whole movie, which I forgot to mention, of his father. He realizes that his father was an eel. Now we find out what the omnis is. It is the human collective consciousness, part of our DNA. And so the eels have figured out a way to use this to get all the books and all the plays and all the information into us, into our being, and then it can never be taken away. So that way we'll always know shit. I'm down for that. Spending all these damn years in college and could just get an omnis pill. Give me my pill. So the firemen end up catching Montague and Clarice together. Well, almost. He helps Clarice escape. And now that he remembers his father's arrest, he's like, I don't want to be a fireman no more. So he tries to retire. But his boss is like, look, you don't want it. You don't want it. I'll have to arrest your ass for the bullshit. And this is when we find out they Google Home assistants is spying on everything. So Montague busy trying to help the eels, but one of the firemen he on the team with has been tasked to tattle and trail. And so he reports back to the boss, you know he helping them eels. You know he is. I saw it. Oh, look, it's Candy Alexander. I want to see more of her. So now we got this group of eels where everybody's memorized a book so it can get into the omnis gene. And they give Montague a test. Are you going to kill one of your fellow firemen? And Montague was ready to off that ass, so he passed. So we find out the omnis is in a bird. And Montague has to escort a 13-year-old and a bird to Canada. I mean, why a bird? A drop dead at the drop of a hat bird. A fly away and get on your nerve bird. A Carly red ass bird. I don't understand it. A bird with a weak ass immune system. If I was going to put my trust in something to save humanity, the last thing I would put it in is a bird. So the boss catches Montague getting the transponder with the book. And he like, I got to stop this shit. So then they start reading the book while the book on fire. Then they go back to Montague's house and catch him with all of his shit. And they added some extra to really make him look guilty. He goes on and burns the shit, but then burns his whole house down. But before he can get taken away and arrested, he's able to escape. So they get back to the ominous crew, but everybody's surrounded, helicopters and all. They attach this transponder to the bird, and then Michael ends up getting burned up. And that was the stupid ass movie. I forgot he died at the end of this shit. I hope they can find that bird. And then at the end, they showed the birds, dancing. So I guess they're spreading their little ominous or whatever. Good for them. Or maybe it means that the birds got the ominous and they just ended up really smart. I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't the worst. It was definitely a one and done watch. Like, I ain't never looking at that shit again. We can go on and delete this off the DVR now. I have to say, I wouldn't want Westworld. I would want Broadway World, because I ain't trying to be fucking no robots. But I would like to take a vacation into a world where everybody just breaks into random song and dance numbers. I think that would be fun. Like Fame. And so you could, have a little Evita moment at lunch, have a bye-bye birdie moment at dinner, late at night you're doing an In the Heights dance, or Mambo from West Side Story. That would be fun. And that way the dancers wouldn't be tired and the backup singers wouldn't be tired because, they robots. So post-coitus, because, Delos' son was going to fuck one of them robots. I don't know who this white woman is, but Evan Rachel Wood come in the room after and see the other white woman getting dressed, and they have this weird woman-to-woman, robot-to-robot moment. And I'm like, what are you all thinking? What's going on in your CPU? Is it jealousy? Is somebody looking down on somebody? Like, is she calling her a robot hoe? What's going on? What's going on in their minds? I need some internal dialogue. So now we back at the lab, and Dolores is like, show James Marsden his history so he'll go along with my bullshit, because he's still confused. Back on the ranch, we see Ed Harris and his bow-legged walk coming to save one of the hosts that he had a narrative with earlier. I'm beginning to think he a host, because the host is fucking with him. Some of them ain't on his side, some of them is. He old fighting something, I'll give him that. So Ed goes into some long speech about the devil and life and coded shit. Just tell us what the fuck is going on. That way we know where your emotions are coming from. This is a television show, not a class. Back in the lab, the hosts are torturing the humans, trying to get answers about how many people are going to show up to save the day. And this old heifer gonna tell them, 600 to 800 people. Don't tell them that. They robots. Fuck them. I'm sorry, but if my toaster turns to life, it does not have the same rights and privileges I do. You still my toaster, and I'm going to need my bread cooked. I ain't got time for the bullshit. All of a sudden, you sentient. The fuck. Now we get a flashback of Westworld when Ed Harris is played by his younger self, Jimmy Simpson. And this is when Delos is introduced to the idea, and he invests in the company, and that's how we get to where we is today. Flash forward back to present day. Maeve and Dolores run across each other in Westworld, and they have a tense exchange, but don't get in each other's way. Somebody said that this was an allegory for feminism and black feminism. Especially when Maeve said, is yours the only way to fight? Part of me is like, well, this was written like probably 2 or 3 years ago before we had the current conversation in the culture that we're having today. And another part of me is, well, maybe somebody stuck it in there. They might be right. I don't know. Y'all see it? Let me know what you think. For me, it's a could be not. So as Delolo is rounding up her army, we get a flashback to some type of retirement / coronation party at Casa del Delos. And this time, Dolores is playing the piano. She a busy heifer in this show. And we see Delos' granddaughter was talking to her, and she's like, don't you talk to the robots. Don't get friendly with the help. Oh, God, Jimmy Simpson and this woman, I don't see it. So Delos has a moment with Delolo, and he's giving us some foreshadowing that something's going on, but we don't know what. They love to do this in this show. Give you a whisper or something, but you're like, I can taste something, but I don't know what it is. He said the species is burning. What does that mean? Because if you notice, we're not like seeing everyday news. We're not really seeing what's going on in the real world. Like we're seeing Westworld and the people with Delos, like the super rich. But we ain't seeing, everyday people. Everyday people. I am everyday people. We ain't seeing them. It's machines and rich folk. So now we got Ed Harris and his robot friend roaming the park. Now Ed talking to some soothsaying robot, talking about elephants and steaks. It's getting a little boring for me, to be honest. But I'm hanging in there for you. So now we get another flashback where Jimmy Simpson has a moment with robot Dolores. And he's telling her, you're a thing. I can't believe I fell in love with you. You wasn't saying that when you was getting all that CPU pussy. And so then we have a flash of Dolores and Jimmy Simpson in front of the terraforming shit. And I guess that's when he was starting to dig that new ocean that the host ended up in. And we end the episode with Jane Martin fortunately pointing out that some hosts call it the Valley Beyond, some hosts call it Glory, but y'all heading to the same place. And I guess that's being sentient. Oh. And what they're looking for isn't a place, it's a weapon. I guess consciousness could be a weapon. All right, well, that's where the shit ends. So I'm going to see you soon for the next episode.